Can we, there we go. All right. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. I am minus my girl Laura today. Unfortunately, we got in a big fight. I don't want to talk about it. Just kidding, we didn't. She'll be back next week. Our schedules kind of conflicted over the weekend, so I thought I would take the time to talk a little bit more about my keto journey in particular. And hit that like button. Even if you don't like keto, hit the like button because we're all friends here. So if you're interested, please stay tuned. If you don't like keto, if you don't want to hear about it, no worries, X out. Just come back next week for the next Foodie Friday. Actually, this whole video is my experience in particular. Everyone's gonna have a different opinion on the keto diet. I know that keto has blown up over the last year. I'm gonna speak directly from my experience, why I started, things that supplemented the keto diet for me, that helped me, that aided me in losing those 50 pounds. I have my notes here. You can't, I don't know if you can see Kirby, but he's right there. He likes to be my companion. Okay, so a little bit of a backstory. I've definitely in the past used food as a comfort, an unnecessary coping mechanism to stress, that I would just, you know, kind of like shovel in food and not really be conscious of how much I was consuming, or I would use it as, you know, if I was happy, have food. If I was sad, have food. If I was stressed, have food. And that's not a healthy relationship with food. So if you guys watched our journey video, then I briefly went over how I was the slimmest I had ever been in the last year or so of my high school. I knew I could, at that time I had lowered my carbs and I was doing a lot of aerobic activity. I was dancing a lot. When I wanted to lose weight about a year and a half ago, when I started the keto diet, I knew that I could make it work if I lowered my carbs again. I had tried in the beginning of 2018 to just kind of eat in moderation, as I've heard most people do, and I think that I didn't go about it the right way. I tried to, you know, have maybe a little bit of rice or a little bit of potatoes or a little bit of bread, and I really wasn't tracking. I didn't understand energy expenditure or needing to be in a caloric deficit. I really didn't understand. I didn't have enough knowledge, or as much knowledge as I have now, and I'm still by no means an expert, but I didn't have that before. So I didn't really know what I was doing. But at the time I knew we were planning a wedding, and I just had I had a vision. I really wanted to look good and feel good in my dress and look good in the pictures, and I just knew that I didn't at the time. So I was like, okay, we gotta get it in gear and make this work. And so that was my goal leading into it, which everyone needs a goal. I don't blame yourself if it's just physical. It doesn't matter. Everyone needs a goal. So if your goal is physical and that's what gets you out of bed and gets you motivated to go to the gym or go swimming or run laps or whatever, do it. Everyone needs a goal. I knew what I wanted to achieve, and I had enough time to make that goal a reality in a sustainable fashion, which was always in the back of my head. Was like, okay, I want to get this way. I want to slim down, but I want to make it sustainable. I don't want to yo-yo again. I was like, okay, I know I need to do this. And I remember going through, I remember like watching YouTube videos on the keto diet and on intermittent fasting, because they go hand in hand. You can do your own research on intermittent fasting. I will talk about my experience with it. But I knew, I had seen some videos on it and it intrigued me. So I went on YouTube and I just started watching videos. I watched a lot of Dr. Berg, Thomas DeLauer, and a few others that are big in the keto community. Keto Connect also are super cute couple that have been keto for years, and they're very like lifestyle focused and like keto lifestyle focused. And The first thing I did when I decided I was going to go keto was I decided to really dive in and research how to do it correctly. I want to stick to it and see what happens and track my progress throughout that time and see also how I feel. Right around the same time, I found weightlifting. So a lot of the questions that I get asked are, especially from friends, is that weightlift also, is don't you feel weaker, being that you can't have as many carbs to fuel your session in the gym? And while there is some merit to that, I believe, where my bias comes in is that I don't have a frame of reference. I don't have another frame of reference. I literally started weightlifting when I was already on the keto diet, and I just have no frame of reference. I can't speak on it. I have no idea. But as of the last year, I do feel confident in the gym. I do feel like I push my weight. I'm constantly learning. I am a newbie at this, so Laura helps me a lot. And in trying to understand weights and progressive overload, I do a ton of research on my own on it. But anyway, that's a different story. So in the beginning, I stayed under 25 grams of net carbs. That's your overall carbohydrates minus the fiber. Fiber in itself is a carbohydrate, but it reacts differently in the body. So you subtract total carbohydrates from fiber, and that's how you get your net carbohydrates. So I was at 25 grams or under of carbohydrates, but typically right around 25 grams. I stuck to that. I wasn't always under, I wasn't always over. I just tried to track the best I could. I also did intermittent fasting. I did the 16-8. You can look it up, but basically I had an 8-hour window of eating in a 16-hour fast, and I work a desk job, so it was very interesting to learn that a lot of the hunger cues that I thought I had weren't really hunger cues. They were just like, oh, I'm bored at the computer, let me snack on something. Or I had just created a habit of like around 10 getting a snack. And it's not to say that I avoided or I just dismissed all of my hunger cues. I just really tried to listen at whether they really were hunger cues. Like I would drink water. I have a huge hydro flask that I keep with me at all times and at my desk, and every single time that I would think I was hungry, I would just drink water, or I would walk around. The key was distraction, because I found that if I was busy throughout the morning and I literally couldn't eat until I broke my fast, which was around noon or 1, I found that I never even thought about food. So it was really for me, it was more psychological. Am I truly hungry, or am I just thirsty, or am I just bored? For about 4 months, I did intermittent fasting, the 16-8 method, and I found it worked really well for me for those 4 months. I found it was very easy. After the first couple weeks, you get super used to it, and it made it easy for me. At the time, I didn't understand, but it made it really easy for me to adhere to a caloric deficit, because you have such a short window relative of time to eat or to consume your calories for the day, that it doesn't give you a lot of time to be like, okay, let me just have this meal later on and go over your limit. But you still have to eat good food, nutrient dense food. You can't just hit up In-N-Out for all of the meals and expect results, but it does aid. And I feel like it is helpful. I feel like it is beneficial to a lot of people. And if it works for you, I think that's great. There's a ton of research out, and there's more being published on the benefits in a biological standpoint, what happens in our bodies during intermittent fasting and why it can be beneficial. Just do your research on that and see if it's something that works for you. I do feel that if you have a hard time adhering to a caloric deficit, that shortening that window of time that you can consume your calories for the day, it really helps. Because my goal was to lose fat, so I would research the best methods to do that. And what I came across was that a lot of high intensity interval training was super effective in blasting fat, and also very convenient in terms of time. I could do it during my lunch. I could do it before work. It only takes 15 to 20 minutes if you're truly going like at your maximum capacity. I found it really helped me. So my preferred method, and still is to this day, except I've changed it up a little bit, is to do sprints on the treadmill. I just go for 20 seconds on, 40 seconds off, or 30 seconds on, a minute off. And I just do that for about 15 or 20 times. And I remember in the very beginning, I would do that Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That would be as a way, because I'm not a runner. So, and I've never been a runner. So I found that it helped my body recover a little bit if I spread it out that way. That was really helpful for me. So because I had also discovered weightlifting, I supplemented the HIIT with weightlifting. I knew that if I increased muscle mass, that I would also burn fat. So that's what drove me, and that's what attracted me to weightlifting initially. Laura had created a split for me, and I just followed it in terms of leg days and upper body and incorporating HIIT. I found it was really enjoyable and sustainable for me. There's multiple gyms that I could go to that are relatively close to my house. So it finally became something that I feel like was sustainable for me. So in terms of nutrition, I looked up a lot of articles and videos on what was keto approved. And I knew it was going to be a lot of vegetables. I think a common misconception about keto is that you can just go crazy with fat and protein and just make sure you're low carb and then you're good to go. And that is not the case. It's a moderate protein, it's a higher fat, and it's a low carb. But the key is moderate protein. You can't go haywire on protein. I do eat meat, and I found it very easy to kind of maintain my protein macro intake with my diet. So I don't find the need personally to supplement with anything. So I wanted to set myself up for success, and I feel like that was really important. And so when I was looking up food and what to eat, I was like, okay, what can I make that is meal prep and that will keep for a couple days, and I can meal prep a couple times a week or once a week and just keep them in Tupperwares, grab them and go. And I would just set myself up that way. Plus it saves a ton of money, so I suggest meal prepping anyway. So yeah, so some examples of food that I would make that I still make to this day is I love stir fries. I do ground beef with a ton of different spices, whatever you want, and then I put veggies in it and I just mix it up. Like right now I have a Brussels sprout, and I've had a Brussels sprout kick for a long time. I will say that I have no problem eating the same food every day. Like I'm not forced to eat it. I truly just enjoy eating the food that I make, even though it's the same. That's one of the things that I feel like is a little bit hard, is getting creative. There's so much information out in the world today. Pinterest is great for that. So there are different ways. You just have to get a little creative. So the reason I wanted to emphasize nutrition is because, like we talked about in our fitness journey, nutrition is a huge, regardless of what diet you have, nutrition plays 70 to 80% of the success you'll have is based on food. If you eat shit, you won't feel good. I recommend healthy, nutrient-dense foods the majority of the time. Even if you didn't weightlift and you do another form of exercise, or even if you just walked, a big part of your success will be your nutrition and what you consume. You need to consume stuff that's going to be good for your body, that's going to fuel it for whatever type of activity you do. And I find that even changing certain aspects of your diet, whether that be consuming too much soda, reducing that consumption by, if you drink 2 sodas a day, half it and see how you do. One of the first things I noticed actually when I was first starting keto, I was within the first 3 months, is that I would feel when I would eat the foods that I'd meal prepped at work, I would notice that I had more energy after my keto meal versus having a leftover that was mainly carbohydrates before. So like, for example, Before I went keto, we would have pasta bolognese, meat, red sauce with pasta. We would make a lot of it and put it in Tupperwares for the rest of the week. And I would take it to work and I would eat it. And I would find that after I ate that, I was super tired, like lethargic. I just didn't want to do, I needed a coffee. I needed caffeine to get me through the rest of the workday. So one of the things that I really found helpful and beneficial to me personally about keto is that the meals that I was having that were lower in carb, higher in fat, I was shocked how less tired I was post meal. I didn't need a coffee after I ate lunch at work, and I could go back to my desk and function fine. I didn't feel like super lethargic or sluggish. That was one of the first things that I did notice about taking out carbs, was just like, whoa, I have so much more energy post meal than I did if it was heavily carb based. One of the things that will forever be difficult, which we talked about again in our fitness journey video, is motivation. When something's new, it's exciting, so you're more motivated. But as time passes, the excitement isn't always there. It ebbs and flows, but you're not motivated all the time. You're not excited all the time. So, but once it's a habit, it's a habit. It's just something that you get through, and the motivation will come and go. So one of the things that I learned from the very beginning, which I'm so glad that I did, is everyone that I watched on YouTube in terms of like fitness progress and ways to motivate yourself is to keep in progress photos, and how important it was to do that over the scale, because the scale doesn't tell you everything, as I'm sure you know. So stepping on the scale every day, first of all, just don't do that. But stepping on the scale doesn't always tell you everything that's happening in your body, and you can't always visualize it. So one of the things that I found awesome was tracking the photos. At first, it'll suck, but after you continue and you see progress, it'll motivate you. You'll be motivated, just self-motivated from those pictures. I'll insert some photos in this video so you can see what I'm talking about, but that was super cool. I find it is super helpful and super motivating. I did weigh myself about every month when I would take my progress photo. That's when I would weigh myself to see how I was doing. Now, about 3 to 4 months in, I realized how much I enjoyed weightlifting and how I started noticing definition in my arms and in my legs, and I quickly shifted from fat loss focused to kind of muscle gain focused. Now, I know it's really, really hard to gain muscle when you're in a caloric deficit. However, it is possible. It's just slower, and being a beginner, having a lot of fat to lose, it's easier to that definition because of the fat loss around the muscles that are growing. So when I would do my monthly check-ins, I would look at that definition and see how my body was changing. And then when I would weigh myself, I would also take into account hey, bigger picture, muscle weighs more than fat. If you're gaining muscle and maybe not necessarily losing as much fat, the scale's not going to tell you everything. That's why I stopped focusing so much on the scale and on the photos, and then how my clothes felt. That was a huge indicator. I don't know why jean sizes aren't the same for every brand, but it doesn't matter. I would just look at my closet and try on clothes that I had worn 3 months prior, and if they were loose, I was on the right track. I was still adhering to my goal and getting to my goal. In terms of cravings, I have a sweet tooth. I don't think it's as gnarly as a lot of people's, but I do have a sweet tooth. I crave after something salty. I do crave something sweet. I'm more of a cookie or chocolate. Not really into sour gummies or really gummy candy in general. A lot of people ask me, do you ever have those? Do you have cheat meals? Do you have cravings? Of course I have cravings. Everyone has cravings. I was so focused on my goal that I just didn't waver. I was absolutely not. Like nothing's gonna take focus away from my goal and what I want to achieve. So I would just find alternatives that were within the keto world. So there are so many recipes that use sugar alternatives, sugar alcohols to sweeten things. And I found that over time, the stuff that was super, super sweet that I enjoyed before, I would create like a keto equivalent recipe. And I found that over time, I didn't need as much sweetener as I thought I did. I enjoyed having stuff that was just a little bit of sweet, but not uber sweet. I also really enjoy, I've never been an ice cream person, but as of recently, I discovered Rebel Creamery, and it's now sold in my grocery store that I go to, and I'm obsessed. I cannot get enough of it. The cookie dough flavor is absolutely phenomenal. It's always in my freezer. I track it to make sure I don't go crazy, but it's really, really good. Oh God, it's so good. This video is gonna be all over the place because I'm just trying to tell you like everything that I did over the last year to hopefully help you out. I do enjoy protein bars from time to time. One of the ones that taste the best for me are Quest bars. I really enjoy them. They're low in net carbs. You can find them most places nowadays. So I really, really like those. Cookie dough flavor also, because I can't get enough cookie dough. I'm obsessed. Sustainability is something that I've really tried to keep in mind throughout this last year and a half. Can I do this long term? And while you never know what will happen, I believe that my current diet right now I love it. I feel like I have energy. I feel good about myself. I feel good in my skin. So that's why finding alternatives to things that you ate prior. So it might take a little bit more effort on your part to find those creative alternatives, but I do think it's possible, especially with the internet. It's just a lot easier to be able to find alternatives that will satiate you and keep you on track. I don't know if a lot of people talk about it in the keto world. I'm honestly not sure. I'm not a huge drinker, like alcohol drinker. Prior to maybe like 25, I just didn't find any alcoholic drinks good. I still don't care for being drunk. So when I wasn't keto, I really enjoyed a Kir Royale, which is a champagne and a splash of raspberry liqueur. And I found that drink phenomenal. It was very sweet, but I really, really liked it. When I was at social events, I'd be like, okay, that's a perfect drink. It's common, a lot of people know it, and it tastes delicious. So I was like, great, this is my drink of choice. Now, it was a sweeter drink, not keto friendly when I made the switch. So one of the things that I paid attention to was, okay, can I have another drink that will work within this diet? And I found that tequila really worked with some soda water and fresh lime juice, just freshly squeezed. So yeah, you find alternatives that work. And I actually find that I enjoy that drink more now anyway. I know that you can have champagne to an extent on the keto diet. However, I don't like the taste of champagne alone. Even if it's really good champagne, I don't know, there's something about it that I don't enjoy. So I found this drink of just tequila, a splash of soda water, and some fresh lime juice, and that totally works for me. A lot of people, I think, poo-poo the keto diet because, you'll get high cholesterol and this and that, and I feel that can be the case if you're not eating nutrient-dense foods. So I went after a year on the diet to my primary care physician, and I got my blood drawn, and everything was normal. All my blood levels were completely normal, and everything checked out when I went and had my physical. So I feel like it's a good thing to track. It's a good thing to make sure that you're good and that it works for you. So a lot of people ask like how you get started. I have a friend that is just starting to kind of dabble in keto. He asked me like, how do you Like, how do you get started? How did you find information, etc. And I sent him some sources of how I started and the information that I found helpful. I think the point is that with anything, with any diet, you have to just start. At some point you have to stop talking about it and you have to start being about it. There's no alternative if you want to get to that goal. Whatever the goal may be, you have to start. My biggest tip if you want to start keto is do your research, make sure you're well informed, make sure that it works for you, consult any doctors or dietitians that you need to see if this will work for you. Start slow, set attainable goals or 30-day goals, track your progress, and see how you feel. Those are key. If anything is off, if your body feels weird, you don't feel energized, if you feel weak, if there's anything off about how you're feeling, not because you're being challenged, but if there's anything else that's off, then stop and reassess and try again the next day or the next week and find a way to move more. If you don't like weightlifting, that's fine. Go out and walk around, do whatever it is you need to do to get yourself moving. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what diet, if you want to lose fat, you need to be in a caloric deficit. I find that with the ketogenic diet, it's a lot easier for me to adhere to a caloric deficit because carbohydrates add a lot of calories very quickly versus protein and fats that allow me to maintain a caloric deficit and still feel satiated. Like with anything though, you have to remain consistent to see progress. So I feel like in order to see progress and see what works, you have to do it for a minimum of 3 months. And so that was the number that I had in my head, that I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it for 3 months and see if it works, see if I see results. And when I did, it just that much more motivation to keep going to see what the next 3 months would bring. A lot of people also ask me how I am keto, but my partner is not. So my husband is not keto at all. He loves carbohydrates. And one of the things we love is to cook dinner at home, Monday through Friday at least. And my answer to that, honestly, is when we cook and eat our dinners, it's the same. So we normally have a protein. Lately it's been chicken or salmon. We are on a huge salmon kick. And sometimes we have pork or we switch up and have breakfast. But basically we have a protein source. He has his carbs, so typically rice or mashed potatoes, and then a vegetable. I make like a big salad. So that's I just sub out his carbohydrate for a vegetable source for me. I just double my amount of vegetables. And like I said, I love Brussels sprouts. I love broccoli, cauliflower rice. In the past, like 6 months or so ago, I've eaten Miracle Rice. You can get it on Amazon. I think you can get it at Whole Foods. That's a super great alternative when you're kind of craving either a pasta or a rice. I'll link it below. Just add some butter, some spices, and some salt, and you're good. Another thing I get a lot is, don't you feel like you're missing out on life, or you're not living life to the fullest? And it's like, I like food, obviously, but I'm not going to restrict myself if it's truly something delicious. Like when we were on our honeymoon, if we were somewhere where it was homemade bread and it was this like mom and pop shop somewhere, or it wasn't like a commercial restaurant or a chain or something, and they were like known for that, absolutely, like, why not? Yes, I would. I'm not going to say no, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not living life to the fullest because I don't consume certain foods. I think that that's absurd to say, because that's putting so much focus around food. And that's like people, for me, that was like when people would ask me when I was younger, oh, don't you need alcohol to have fun? No, I'm perfectly fine not having alcohol and having a great time with my friends. If my friends want to drink, by all means, go for it. But I don't enjoy it. I didn't at the time have any drink that I liked that was alcoholic. So I just didn't do it. But I had a great time. And I feel like I was still enjoying myself. I was still living life. I was still creating those memories just fine. It wasn't, I guess, the way that society wanted me to. I don't know. That's where I don't put a lot of emphasis on it. If I'm in Italy, absolutely, I'm going to have pasta, I'm going to have pizza, I'm going to have bread. It's like the carbohydrate capital of the world. I'm not going to say no. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, there are other aspects of life other than food. I don't know if that makes any sense. I feel like sometimes that question is a little absurd. Like, no, I don't feel like I don't know. I don't feel like I'm missing out on life or not living life to the fullest because of that. I don't know. I personally disagree. I've been a year and a half keto, and I'm fine with it. I find it enjoyable. I find I can live life. I find I can eat out. I know that restrictive food lifestyle or way of eating is frowned upon in like the fitness and diet community, and I agree if it's coming from a place of fear. I don't fear carbohydrates. Since the wedding, if I'm at a party or if I'm at a social event and all they have is pasta or all they have is rice, I'm not going to starve myself because I'm on this diet. I've chosen to make keto a lifestyle for me. So when I don't have keto options, I will of course eat. I will fuel my body. I'm not going to starve myself. But I find that this diet really works for me. I don't find that I'm missing out on having rice or missing out on having pasta. It works for me and I feel good. And so as of right now, like I said, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if I'll be keto forever, but I like it and I feel like it works and I feel like it's sustainable for me. So while I agree that restricting a macronutrient isn't a good way of looking at it, I don't look at it as a restrictive diet. I'm eating what makes me feel good. Carbohydrates made me feel lethargic. They made me feel sluggish. So I don't consume them. I've found alternatives and I've found something that works for me. I get a lot of questions about cheat days too. Restriction it has a negative connotation as it is, so I feel like cheating obviously also has a negative connotation. So no, I don't have cheat days. Again, I've found that there are keto alternatives to a lot of the sugary foods that I would consume before, that I would crave before. So I don't feel the need to go and have a ton of food. I also don't feel like I ate a lot of that stuff before because it just doesn't make me feel good. Like a ton of sugar doesn't make me feel good. I don't know why I go to sugar for a cheat meal, but yeah, I think the way to make this sustainable is to find alternatives that taste good. I just feel like you have to get creative and you have to work a little bit harder to adhere to it. But if you do, I find personally I'm satiated by those alternatives. So it works for me. I don't feel the need to have cheat meals. But if you need that to keep going, to adhere to a diet, whether it be keto or otherwise, then do it. But make sure it's planned out. Don't do it on a whim. Like, I'm just going to wake up today and have 5,000 calories. Like, make sure that you plan ahead, you know the day you're going to do it. And then the next day, just go back to what you were doing before. Don't try to compensate for the day before. I think that that's where the guilt happens, is that you do something that you feel like is bad, like a cheat day, and then you try to compensate by doing X, Y, and Z the next day. And it's just not, if you're going to do a cheat day, just do a cheat day, do it right, plan it ahead, and then the next day just go back to your normal lifestyle, normal way of eating, normal way of training, and you'll be fine. One day is not going to do anything. If you do it once a month, you're gonna be fine. Just go back to your normal lifestyle. So yeah, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I wanted to share what my journey's been like over this last year and a half on this diet and also finding weightlifting. I hope that it inspires any of you that are maybe on the cusp thinking about a keto diet to maybe take the plunge and go and do it and try it out and see if it works for you. Again, small goals, 30-day goals to see if it works for you. Why not try it? And if it can get you closer to your goals, then that's fantastic. If it doesn't work for you and what you're doing right now works for you, that's awesome too. Go ahead. Keep doing what you're doing. And leave me any questions in the comments below. We'll be back next week for a Foodie Friday. Not sure what we have planned, but I'm sure it'll be good. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe. It's free. Subscribing is free. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys. We're just gonna go with the flow. Laura, I need you. This gets very difficult for me. Wow, I've had this in my hair this whole time. It's great. Oh god. That. Which is great. My ligaments. Or taste, yeah, that tastes